So, because I have finished Ocean Vuong's Honor for Briefly Gorgeous, I am going to go continue my TBR with this book. It is the Bhagavad Gita by Mr. Eknath Easwaran. I hope I pronounce his name right and I don't butcher it. Yes. So, in an effort to be in a state of continuous learning of the English language, this video would be me reading a few pages of this book to start out me reading this book. So, a brief introduction of the Bhagavad Gita. It is one of the few texts in Hinduism that I think, from what I have read in the past, I think is a roadmap to living life. I think, yeah. So let's just get right into reading, shall we? So yeah, I am going to read the first page of the book until the 11th page of the book, because that is the few pages that, started the book out, if you know what I mean. Yeah, so let's get into it. The Bhagavad Gita. On this path, effort never goes to waste, and there is no failure. Even a little effort towards spiritual awareness will protect you from the greatest fear. So yeah, I don't even know why I show the camera this. I have it on mirrored. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. The foreword. The classics of Indian spirituality. Imagine a vast hall in Anglo-Saxon England not long after the passing of King Arthur. It is the dead of winter and a fierce snowstorm rages outside, but a great fire fills the space within the hall with warmth and light. Now and then a sparrow darts in for refuge from the weather. Naturally, it appears as if from nowhere, flits about joyfully in the light, and then disappears again. And where it comes from and where it goes next in the stormy darkness, we do not know. Our lives are like that, suggests an old story in Beres's medieval history of England. We spend our days in the familiar world of our five senses, but what lies beyond that, if anything, we have no idea. Those sparrows are hints of something more outside, a vast world perhaps waiting to be explored, but most of us are happy to stay where we are. Fares, we may even be a bit afraid to venture into the unknown. What would be the point? We ask, why should we leave the world we know? That's a great point. Yet, there are always a few who are not content to spend their lives indoors. Of course, simply knowing there is something unknown beyond their reach makes them acutely restless. They have to see what lies outside, if only, as George Mallory said of Everest, because it's there. So, on second thought, I do not think I will read until the 11th page because it's kind of long. It's not kind of long. On second thought, I will read into the 11th page. Bear with me. This is true of adventurers of every kind, but especially of those who seek to explore not mountains or jungles, but consciousness itself, whose real drive, we might say, is not so much to know the unknown as to know the knower. Such men and women can be found in every age and every culture. While the rest of us stay put, they quietly slip out to see what lies beyond. So a lot of people is content, is happy to stay where they are, but there are a select few who ventures to the unknown, right? And I want to be that select few. And by reading this book, hopefully, I can be one of those select few. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, let's continue. Then so far, as we can tell, they disappear. We have no idea where they have gone. We can't even imagine. But every now and then, like friends who have run off to some exotic land, they sandbag reports, breathless messages describing fantastic adventures, rambling letters about a world beyond ordinary experience. Right. We continue. Wait, let me frame this better. There we go. Yeah. Urgent telegrams begging us to come and see. Look at this view. Isn't it breathtaking? Wish you could see this. Wish you were here. The works in this set of translations, the Upanishads, the Bhagavad Gita, and the Dhammapada, are among the earliest and most universal of messages like these, set to inform us that there is more to life than the everyday experience of our senses. So, the individuals that are, reporting back to inform us of this view, this breathtaking view, is reporting us in the forms of those three sets of literature work, I think, right? The Upanishads, the Bhagavad Gita, and the Dhammapada. We continue. The Upanishads are the oldest, so varied that we feel some unknown collectors must have tossed into a jumble all the photos, postcards, and letters from this world that they could find, without any regard for source or circumstance. Thrown together like this, they form a kind of ecstatic slideshow, snapshots of towering peaks of consciousness taken at various times by different observers, and dispatched with just the barest kind of explanation. But those who have traveled those heights will recognize the views. Oh yes, that's Everest from the northwest. Must be late spring, and here we're in the south, in the full snows of winter. So what I get and what I catch from what the Upanishads are, they are like screenshots or pictures of that unknown land that the select few sent us, and those select few recognize those pictures and photos because they have gone there, just like that last sentence. Oh yes, that's Everest from the northwest. Must be late spring. Oh yes, it's like saying, oh yes, that's the unknown from this angle. Yeah, we continue. The Dhammapada too is a collection, traditionally, sayings of the Buddha, one of the very greatest of these explorers of consciousness. In this case, the messages have been sorted, but not by a scheme that makes sense to us today. Instead of being grouped by theme or topic, they are gathered according to some dominant characteristics, like a symbol or metaphor, such as flowers, birds, a river, or the sky, that makes them easy to commit to memory. If the Upanishads are like slides, the Dhammapada seems more like a field guide. Okay. This is lore picked up by someone who knows every step of the way through these strange lands. Okay. He can't take us there, he explains, but he can show us the way. Tell us what to look for, warn about missteps, advise us about detours, tells us what to avoid, and most importantly, he urges us that it is our destiny as human beings to make this journey ourselves. Okay, the Dhammapada is like a person who tells us where to go, like a guide. But he doesn't necessarily go with us to the unknown land of the consciousness. He just knows the way. He shows us the way, but he can't take us there. You know, he's like an informant in the beginning of a quest. You know, he knows how to get there, but he doesn't actually take us there. You know. And then, most importantly, he tells us that this journey is the destiny of each and every one of us. But this journey, we have to make it ourselves. We need to go on these journeys ourselves. And then we continue. And then the third of these classics, the Bhagavad Gita, gives us a map and a guidebook. It gives a systematic overview of the territory, shows various approaches to the summit with their benefits and pitfalls, offers recommendations, tells us what to pack and what to leave behind. More than either of the others, it gives the sense of a personal guide. It asks and answers the questions that you or I might ask. Questions not about philosophy or mysticism, but about how to live effectively in a world of challenge and change. So, let me just skip a few sentences. I conveniently have already highlighted this. We are not cabin dwellers born to a life cramped and confined. We are meant to explore, to seek, to push the limits of our potential as human beings. So, you know what? Let me just read all of it. These three texts are very personal records of a landscape that is both real and universal. Their voices, passionately human, speak directly to you and me. They describe the topography of consciousness itself, which belongs as much to us today as to these largely anonymous seers thousands of years ago. If the landscape seems dark in the light of sense perception, they tell us it has an illumination of its own, and once our eyes adjust, we can see in what Western mystics call this, quote, divine dark, and verify their descriptions for ourselves. And this world, they insist, is where we belong. This wider field of consciousness is our native land. And again, the quote, we are not cabin dwellers. We are not cabin dwellers born to a life cramped and confined. Yeah. We are meant to explore, to seek, to push the limits of our potential as human beings. That makes sense, right? We're not a sparrow, we're not a bird tied to a cage, trapped in a cage. We're human beings meant to explore our life. Whoa. We're meant to explore, basically, right? The world of the senses is just a base camp. We are meant to be as much at home in consciousness as in the world of physical reality. This is a message that thrills men and women in every Asian culture. It is for such kindred spirits that these texts were originally composed, and it's for them in our own time that I undertook these translations in the conviction that they deserve an audience today as much as ever. If these books speak to even a handful of such readers, they will have served their purpose. So that is a few pages of the Bhagavad Gita, introduced and translated by Mr. Eknath Easwaran. So, what I catched and what I understand from those few pages is that we as human beings are not tied to the physical world that we live in. We are not, we are not trapped in this physical world. There is a there's a whole other world that we do not know. But people out there and people from the past know this world, know how to get there, know what it looks like, know how the landscape, and know how to get there. And so we as human beings of the modern world, according to this book, is destined to set on this journey, to go on this journey. So it is natural for me to be curious as a Hindu myself, to be curious of that world, that consciousness realm, world, or something. And so, as a curious human being, I bought this book so that I could understand more of my religion. And then, as I read more into this book, I have hopes that it will help me go into that world, to understand more, or to understand more of my world and that world and other worlds, and ultimately to understand more of myself. Yeah. And so that is the practice for tonight. That is the English practice for tonight. It is currently 10:05 right now. I am going to brush my teeth and hit the hay. So thank you all if you have watched until the end, and see you in the next one. Peace out, baby.